Hello everybody, it is me, Pacific. Wow, first week back at work and it's good, but getting in the rhythm, I've been out of my stride on YouTube. Last night I did something I haven't done in a while. Checked my messages, checked my YouTube, ate my dinner, and I prayed. I just shut down the computer and prayed, and it was good. Prayed for a lot of things. Prayed that God would continue to work on me, to change me to be more Christ-like. I mean, that is something that all of us need to work on. I wanted to talk today about... Last night I did watch, before I shut down the computer, I don't know how it came up. Oh, one of my viewers recommended a video, 1959, The Problem with Women, and it was good. It was outstanding. I was like, oh my gosh, this is funny, black and white, you know. And the guy was talking about, one of the supervisors said, you know, you keep sending me women, boss. The boss was male. You know, there's a lot of problems with this. When I had men, I had no problem. And the video claims that productivity was down when it was all men. Now, I don't know if that's true in real life or not, but on the right-hand side, you know, the video lineups, it showed 1950s educational film on homosexuality, or homosexuals, and I was like, oh, let's see this. I'm going to include that in the link, and I'm going to be very honest with you. I watched the video, and I thought, you know what, this is so true, and it triggered something. And I'm going to say something. And I'm going to say something that's very crystal clear, and it's not going to be popular today at all. But it's a fact. Homosexuals, for the most part, are predatory in nature. And I watched this video. I thought it was well done. I don't know if I agree with the part that it's a sickness, because a lot of secular society likes to, especially back then when the majority of the people weren't doing something and somebody did, they would brush it off that it's a sickness. I call it sin. Like I was talking about yesterday about a warped mind, and Christian Advisor and others I have listened to you. I want my viewers to know that you may not realize this, but several of you, there are times I read comments by people and I disregard them. There are times I read comments by some of my viewers and I go, you know what? I hear you. So whether you realize it or not, you've kind of become my inner cabinet, not telling me what I can and cannot say, but there's pointers you've made that, yes, some videos I decided to pull because I'm so forthright and honest, and I thought, you know what? It's probably a good idea not to have these out here. But some of you, my viewers, got to see them, so that was good. So, viewers, if you notice sometimes that a video has been pulled, it's not because it got flagged. It's because I started thinking, yikes. Sometimes I'll play it later and I'll review it and find that, wow, I don't know if I should put that out there. I will be right back. Hold on a second, please. When I watched this video, this was put out by the Inglewood Police Department, and I believe it was Inglewood in California, judging by the palm trees in the background. I wanted to say I thought it was very interesting how much Inglewood has changed. Inglewood in the 1950s was, wow, quite white. And now I think Inglewood is pretty much dominated by African Americans. And not that that's wrong, but it is interesting that even I, as a white male, look at certain aspects of my culture, and I'm very, very, very critical of a lot of things about our culture that have gone awry. The one thing that shocked me in the video was that it was like, wow, homosexuality was starting to become a problem. And everything that video said was true. And there are two types of homosexuals, and I'm going to talk about them, and I'm going to talk about the experience I had at Leif Erikson Park in Duluth of me being truly naive. I told you about the time I was in Duluth, and I'd seen a guy down at this park. I loved the park. It was a cool park. I was naive. I did not know it was a homosexual hangout, and a guy started touching me on the leg, and I was like, whoa. I would have never guessed he was of that persuasion. One of the things about Pacific is I always try to be nice to people. And I was reflecting, that was the other thing that led me to prayer last night, is I thought, I made a lot of mistakes in my life because I just didn't know things. A lot of things were, and the Bible talks about, in a very derogatory light, the simple. We're not talking about those who live their lives simple and uncluttered from the worldliness and stuff like that. But the simple, the ones that just act like there's no God, they just dope around and mess up their lives and this and that. And I think it's talking about people that are kind of dense, And the thing that's interesting is as I watched this video, I was like, gosh, this is all true. I want to say something to you parents and teachers. You guys and gals need to be very astute about the boys and the girls that don't fit in. I'm going to tell you something about lesbians too. They are also predatory. Now, there's a difference between people who struggle with what I call tendencies. And I'm going to say something about those tendencies. Tendencies is often introduced by another, a predator. Tendencies can arise because, in the case of me, and they're gone now, thank God. Tendencies can arise when, in my case, I had a domineering mother, a mother who never apologized, a mother who was not touchy-feely, not demonstrative, not sweet and loving. And you go back to, I had moved to Duluth. Now, mind you, when I moved to Duluth, I knew nothing about the culture up there, stoic. As the winters were, so were the people. Frozen, cold. Even when I worked at the bus company up there was no warmth with the bosses. You were on your own. I mean, you got in your bus, you did your thing, and if you made a mistake, all the guys would sit around, hey, and there was no taking you under the wing. And, it was just, I had to learn the hard way. And looking back on my life in northern Minnesota, I noticed that a lot of locals love to make fun of people who didn't know a thing about it. They love to brag about how harsh their winters were, etc., etc. And it's very interesting to note that I had to find out the hard way for myself in the 5 years I lived in Duluth. I was also reflecting back, and all this is loose ends that I will be tying together. There was only one pastor in my life who is married, who was a good example to me. When I moved to Duluth, he came down to my workplace. Before that, he came to my apartment, visited me with another gentleman who is, to this day, my friend. I just called him a week ago. He is still faithfully serving the Lord. He's a vacuum cleaner salesman. I called his wife and him my Minnesota ma and pa. They invited me over for 4th of July. They cared. I started reflecting on him and others, that if they knew the roads I had gone down in 2008 and succeeding years, and the mistakes I had made, the sins that I embraced, that they'd be mortified. And that caused me to pray and say, God, I am not happy about the sins I committed. Now, lest anybody think I'm blaming, I'm not blaming. I'm just simply throwing a bunch of balls in the air. And there was one pastor, the pastor of this gentleman and his wife, and he was also my pastor. That's how I got my start in school bus driving. I started driving the 30-passenger little church bus they had, and I loved it. And I remember that I had quit a job at a plasma center because it sucked. It was dominated by women. One of them was just a meanie. And I had said, man, I've had enough. I did it for 7 months. And then I did a house remodel for a couple months. The guy paid me handsomely. And mind you, I struggled with that episode that happened at Leif Erikson Park. And I struggled for years singing, man, am I gay? Am I gay? And I realized, no, I'm not. But I've met many gays since then, and they are manipulatory. And one of the symbols, unfortunately, is if they're so nice to you. So nice to you. Oh, It took me years to finally recognize the trademarks, the hallmarks of gay people. Here in Denver, we have the Gay Pride Parade, and a lot of gay people, aggressive gay people, are dangerous. They can be abusive. I never had any of that happen to me, but I want to say something very important to my viewers, because people will not fully understand this. Gay people do not care about you. It's the same as us guys when we get erotic feelings towards a very hot-looking woman. I know, speaking for myself, that I've seen absolutely beautiful women. I just suddenly feel like it would be so easy to say, oh, I love you. Sorry about the sniffles this morning. I want to say this. How many of you guys have been so enraptured by the beauty of a woman that you just feel like, oh, this is the one? You don't even know a thing about her personality. The way we guys are wired is that we are sight-oriented. Girls, you may want to plug your ears on this, but I'm sure you know this already. Ha ha ha. When a woman dresses scantily clad, it is very hard for a man to keep his focus on anything but her body, and what she's showing. When we talk about homosexuality, there is a difference in that the way my male viewers and I are attracted to women, they're attracted to men. And when you have a focus for lust, go back to the account of Sodom and Gomorrah. This is lust that is just magnified. The homosexuality was such a problem in Sodom and Gomorrah that they saw these angels, thought they were just beings, and these guys thought, oh, we want them. Surrounded the house, demanded Lot bring them out. Lot offers his 2 daughters. I don't mean to be crude, but most guys in this sicko world, if 2 daughters were offered them, and they were somewhat good looking, the guys would have said, oh, all right. Not these guys. They didn't even want the girls. And somebody could say, well, I'm sure they were ugly. I doubt they were ugly. Not enough years had set in for the genetic defects, in my opinion, and I think that women were quite good looking. We didn't have the obesity and the McDonald's and, KFC syndrome that we have today. These men were inflamed with lust. So much so that God struck them all with blindness, and they're groping around trying to find their way. People are going to get mad when I say this, but because of my experiences in and around those kinds of people, and I've watched lesbians do the same thing, for some reason, throughout the course of my life, not so much anymore. When you're naive and when you're simple, a lot of people want to hang out with you because they feel like you're not judgmental. And I try to be disarming to people, but more and more I find myself going, no, I'm not comfortable with people that are, and when I say homosexual, I'm talking people that are militantly so. They're not turned on by women. They want a guy, or women that want a woman, no man. I work with gay women and gay men. And though I will be cordial to people in the workplace, I watch these people, and I watch the women that are in the lesbian lifestyle, the butch personality, they're very aggressive. In every case where both in Denver and in Duluth, I had a friend who was lesbian, and their significant other got turned on about the idea of having an interest in me. The one who was my friend was so angry and irrational, and the jealousy and the violent acts, the one in Duluth I told you about that rear-ended us in the car sitting in front of my apartment. A friend had offered me a ride home. And that woman got out of the car and started yelling at me, saying, "You keep your salvation and your God away from her." And I said, "I haven't even said anything." She gave me a ride home, and she yelled in rage. The next day, she punched her own windshield and spiderwebbed it with cracks. Same thing with a friend I had here at work who was involved with a lesbian woman that was a friend of mine in the 90s. That friend of mine was very aggressive, very manipulative. And when she found out her friend had an interest in me, she was wrath-filled. Demanded that you will not see him, not hang out with him. So controlling. Unfortunately, my friend woke up and saw the other friend, woke up, saw the light, and has finally got her own place. Wants nothing to do with that. Homosexual behavior, lesbian behavior is not a neutral. Pacific has understanding for people struggling with desires. I think that in this day and age, you go back to the 50s, you go back to the 60s, 70s, even the early 80s, people are not generally comfortable with this stuff. Though I've noticed that America seems to be, and people, men in particular, seem to be more comfortable with the idea of two women on women than they do with guy on guy. But in the 90s and now in the 2000s, it is pushed from every corner. Rosie O'Donnell, Ellen DeGeneres, they're not what I call pretty women. And they're lesbian, they're very open about it. And even Ellen DeGeneres' cute girlfriend got out of it, got married. Some women try it because it's faddish or passé or shock value. I did some reading on this. A lot of women cannot be moved to do the lesbian thing unless they've had too much alcohol and the guys pressure them into doing so. A lot of women admitted doing it because their boyfriend wanted to see it. We see a rise in this problem, and a lot of women have been honest with me saying they struggle with lesbian pornography. Those are not predatory women. These are women who have grown up in the society, and I'm going to say something very key here. Homosexuality, lesbian behavior works a lot the way the gangs work. The gangs spy out the loser, the rejected, the kid who doesn't fit in and says, "Hey, we'll be your family." A lot of kids jump into that because of that. In the video I post, you can see where the one guy befriended this guy, gave him rides home from his baseball practice, and then took him fishing and this and that, and then proceeded to advance upon him. They do not care about you. If they show you kindness, it's the same as many guys that will romance a woman. They have one thing on their mind. And they will. I can't tell you how many women I've gone on a date right here that have told me, oh yeah, if a guy takes me out to dinner, they expect that I should put out sexually. And I said, really? And I was told that by many women, and they said, real turnoff. Well, because the guy has a goalpost in mind, and it's sexual favors. The same thing is true with the homosexuals. Homosexual men are inflamed with lust, and they will do anything they can to work it, to manipulate it, to get what they want. There's no love in the homosexual community. There is no love in the lesbian community. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It is not boastful. It does not seek its own way. And I'm going to say something bold that's going to fly in the face of the modern gay, lesbian lifestyle. That the gay lifestyle does not endear itself to the biblical definition of love, nor can it do so. There can be acceptance within the community of homosexuals, but more likely than not, what we're not told by a secular media that seems to be fanning this whole gay movement into flame every day, making it more palatable, making it more acceptable, telling kids they can have 2 mommies, 2 daddies, school districts even encouraging students to explore their sexuality in ways that are strictly forbidden in Scripture. Don't think that homosexuals aren't watching playgrounds. Playgrounds are more heavily monitored today. But when I was a kid, our playgrounds were big. And many times, those of us that didn't fit in wandered to the outer edge of that playground. And you have no idea if some gay person is sitting in his car or lives at a house across the street and is spying and watching. And trust me, they see the kid who's the loner. They see the kid who doesn't fit in. And oftentimes, they begin their plan to get that kid. Parents, you need to look at your own children, and you know if your kid's a loner. You know if he's rejected, and you better make sure that you instill in that boy or girl of yours, you're loved here. And it is true. I've met gay people that are so nice. They'll offer this, they'll do this, and it sounds like they really care. They don't. They have a mission in mind. And it's your body that they're after. The same way a man inflamed with lust for a hot blonde woman will do anything he can if he thinks he even has a remote chance of getting down her shorts. The lie that is going around that's promoted by the gay and lesbian community is that, well, you know, I grew up with an abusive father. This woman really loves me. I don't believe it. I know there are a lot of good-looking young ladies today that struggle with same-sex feelings, and I'm going to tell you why that's happened. Because it's been pushed. Because it's all around us now. Because it's encouraged now. It's because they've taken away the stigma. And it's just like I read to you out of True North about the conscience. That our conscience can be changed to reflect the culture in which we live. Look at Look at how PETA reacted to Sarah Palin's photo of the boy stepping up on the dog, and the dog wasn't even mindful of it, wasn't irritated. The kid was light enough. It didn't hurt the dog. And PETA wanted to make a public case of this is animal cruelty. And if you notice that the American conscience is very sensitive to that, and I see examples of this every day. Yesterday with icy roads, I see some guy with his Dalmatian on his lap in his SUV, and I'm like, that is so stupid. And if I were a cop, I'd pull him over and take him and say, what are you doing? You're supposed to be driving. You don't need your dog on your lap. And the mentality today, we've already talked about and I don't like the term unborn. I call them children in the womb because they are children. They're under 18. And Americans are very comfortable with abortion. But liberal whiny crybabies want to fuss about Sarah Palin's dog photo and a child stepping up on the dog while ignoring a flaming lesbian advocate, Ellen DeGeneres, for the same type of picture with a girl. A girl with her shirt off, no less, standing up on a dog. Where's the outcry about exposing a young girl to all the perverts out there with no shirt on, and then standing on the dog to boot? Nothing was said. The gay community screams and loudly makes so much noise demanding to be discrimination-free now in the workplace bylaws, that there shall be no discrimination based on race, creed, religion, sex, meaning male or female, or sexual preference now. And I will tell you, I know women who have personally gone up and tried to dissuade a young woman. Oh, you don't need a man. You don't need a man at all. The Bible talks about something that we don't want to talk about today, but it talks about being inflamed with lust. That's an accurate description. There are aggressive homosexuals, and there are your seemingly more passive. The passive ones will offer you a ride, compliment you constantly. And when you recognize the signs, you can gently rebuff and say, you know what? Thank you, but no thanks. And people who knowingly take advantage of vulnerable people are predators. Knowing that somebody is naive, knowing that somebody's simple, rejected, and you taking your perverted idea and using that as a means to infect them with your lust is wrong. And the Bible does have something to say about that. It talks about, especially with regard to children, better a millstone hung around your neck and drowned in the depths of the sea than to cause one of these little ones to stumble. But it is my express opinion. And again, I have made a distinction between young guys on my channel, young women on my channel, who admitted to being aroused by curiosities. I don't consider you predators. I consider you as having grown up in an environment that's very conducive to promoting this stuff, whereas when I was a kid, you did not talk about this stuff. I'm 48, and in the 70s, you just did not talk about gay stuff. If anything, it was made fun of. And what's interesting in America is the bigger sin now isn't the actual practice of this illicit and unnatural behavior that does not please God. Now it's a sin to say anything that might offend the gay person. That you're not allowed to go up and say, you know, that thing you're doing is sinful. It's wrong. When our government starts legislating that you can't discriminate against sexual preference, we don't stop and think about the ramifications of that. That if I was an apartment building owner and two gay guys or two lesbians come in and want to rent from me, and believe me, I would find a way to discriminate. I just wouldn't rent to them, but I wouldn't tell them. I'd say, you know what, we're accepting applications, and I will get back with you. There's no way that they're going to be able to make a hard, fast case that I discriminated against them. I remember the 90s hearing a story out of Minneapolis or southern Minnesota that made the radio that a Christian landlord refused to rent to a guy and a girl that were living together. He says, I can't do that. He was sued, and he lost. Whatever happened to the separation of church and state? They said he was discriminating. Never mind biblical convictions that we believe that a man and a woman should get married unless they're related to each other or something. But living in sin or cohabitating is not biblical. So the same U.S. government that gives us the right to freedom of religion and the separation of church and state, they didn't uphold it in that case. That if I own property, I cannot put a sign, will not rent to homosexuals. That's just wrong. That Satan has put his bulldozer blade down in our culture and has put that forward lever and is just moving forward day by day by day. The Christians are being discriminated against, and that's okay. The Christians are being told to violate their conscience. And I was doing some reading in True North about that. The seared conscience, the wounded conscience. It's talking about the weaker brother. That if you believe something is right for you, but he has a personal struggle with it, hasn't matured yet, and you just do it and push him to accept it, you're violating his conscience, and that's a sin. Churches have done this all across America with the Christian rock issue. Even the church I went to this weekend, they had a video playing, and they had that grungy, crappy stuff playing, and I looked around at the old people, and I thought, I know they don't get into this. They feel that that's a violation of their conscience, and they're not the weaker brother. And the young people just come in and say, well, that's too bad. Things are changing. God's moving. And God does not move in a way to offend the older people. Convict people, yes. But this whole Christian rock music issue is not a more godly form of worship at all. It's worldly to the core. And I find it interesting that most Denver area churches and surrounding suburbs have capitulated into the mentality that, well, if you don't like it, too bad. That's not biblical love. That does not please God. And what has happened in America is Frank Sinatra has moved into the church. I did it my way, and if you don't like it, too bad. I have freedom in Christ, and nobody's going to tell me what to do. That's not a Holy Spirit-led attitude. I was thinking of, I believe it was Pyramid Head that left the comment that Pinocchio said, "Let your conscience be your guide." And I started reflecting on that and thought, have we ever sat down and unpacked the theology or philosophy that Disney has taught us? You may laugh when I say that. One of the characters, Jiminy Cricket, is simply a substitute for taking Jesus Christ's name in vain. Think about it. I remember growing up hearing older men say, "Oh, Jiminy Cricket." Isn't it funny that it's JC? Jiminy Cricket. Not too far of a stretch that was a cuss word for using Jesus Christ's name in vain. And the whole "do you wish upon a star," Disney's magical kingdom, and many people believe that Walt Disney was a Christian man. There is no evidence of that as far as I can dig. He had his body frozen on ice in hopes that they could bring him alive. Well, the Bible's very clear about that. It is appointed unto man once to die and then to judgment. And those that have eternal life through Christ our Lord, we will see the resurrection. But if you don't know Christ, you go to hell. But Walt Disney's body is not coming back. The philosophies of Disney have supplanted Christian value. I remember Saturday nights racing to the TV to see the Disney special. There was a transition from churches being the mentors to the TV. It's the entertainment industry. And now we see a whole generation of students, kids and baby boomer adults on down that have allowed TV to totally transform their views. Not to biblical views. Christian TV is even detrimental. But this video was primarily about my understanding, because of having been exposed to gay people. They are predatory. They do have an agenda. And they're not just faithful with their lovers. That's a myth. Though there are some that are, the infidelity among gays and the homosexual community is off the charts. In fact, adulterous relationships, if you're going to define it as adultery, meaning you're cheating on your same-sex spouse, and to me, by the way, that does not define adultery. Adultery is if I'm married to a woman and I go out and cheat on her. Adultery is not defined by two men being together and that man and going and having another fling with another man. It's called lust. It's homosexual behavior. But there's been plenty of educational research by those that have their mind set on the truth that have shown that homosexual infidelity and lesbian infidelity is pretty high. And percentage-wise can be even higher than among heterosexual married couples. And I know people that are defending that lifestyle, legitimizing that lifestyle, will come back with all their remarks and say, "Oh, that's not true." But when we live in a society that's denying God, and now we even have homosexuals, we have Reverend Shaw out of Princeton, and I just go, you got to be kidding me. The lesbian minister. What part of demonism do you not understand in that one? And people get mad at me when I say it. But let me tell you that the homosexual community is discriminating against conservatives and born-again Christians. I told you I was at a Focus on the Family rally. Dumb mistake that I made was to bring my kid when he was very little, and it was to support marriages between man and woman, and I went. Lo and behold, we accidentally, because there were so many crowds, we ended up on the wrong side of the Capitol building over on the north side in downtown Denver, and we were by all the gay people yelling and screaming and cussing. And I looked right at my son. I said, "Do you see the examples these people are setting?" Do you hear what they're saying? I said, let that be proof to you, son, that they're not standing on truth. Homosexuals scream for acceptance. They call any discrimination against them the new racism. You see how clever Satan is? And they're redefining the American conscience. They're redefining your conscience. Oh, you swatted that dog on the butt. That's animal abuse. They've got people more scared to abuse an animal than they do about taking their SUV and cutting 2 inches in front of you when you have the walk sign as a pedestrian. That's a fact. People don't value people anymore. They started with abortion. When you can sit there and tell me it's okay to murder your child, which is exactly what it is, I am not going to be sensitive to women out there that want to justify and rationalize an abortion. That is the height of a selfish, feminized female who, to me, should be charged with murder. Sent to prison without parole. That is premeditated murder. It is cold-blooded. And it's no different than some man going out and taking out a college girl. No different. When we talk about conscience and we talk about God's absolutes, let me make it very crystal clear that this world system's thinking is way off the beam. I listen to atheists who do their little rant, their 5 minutes of fame on my channel that are going to tell me, I laugh when you say there's a God. You're so ignorant, naive, and simple. You laugh all the way into the lake of fire, buddy. Because I promise you, the second you cross the threshold of death and die, you will not laugh. You can turn on your spin doctor phonograph, put your needle down and play your same broken record. Well, we have evidence. We have evidence. Where's the evidence? We have evidence. Where's the evidence? We have evidence. Number 9, number 9, number 9. Remember the Beatles song if you played it backwards? Number 9, number 9. Evolutionists are a broken record. The living Word of God is still active. The truth of Christ goes on. And the fact is, if you just do some intellectual thinking, we don't always, now don't misunderstand what I'm saying, viewers. We don't always need Bible verses to prove this or that. We must always stand on the Word of God. But sometimes just an intelligent reasoning and looking at these issues standing outside of it, from a purely intellectual argument, you can shoot all this stuff down. Evolution. How come the fossil record doesn't show transitional life forms? How come it shows animals that are around today that were much bigger back then? Dragonflies with 3-foot wingspans. Yep, they're there. Ground sloths that were 15 feet big. How come there's no in-betweens? How come there's no half in-betweens right now in the living record? I find that interesting. Excuse me. With the gay community, let's just ask some logical questions. How has endorsing the gay agenda benefited society? It's legitimized a bunch of horny people that want to do whatever they want and rebel God's absolutes. And now we've got teenage boys and girls now exploring their sexualness and now running into this in the droves. How long do these people, and I'm going to say fools, think that society's going to last with this kind of moral anarchy? How long is this society going to be open to encouraging a good family marriage and people being happily married heterosexually? And what if that heterosexual couple believes in God and believes in God's standard? And if they're trying to educate their children, do you not realize that we are headed to a time where the government is going to interfere with what parents can teach their children? Do you know that that's coming? Mark my words. And this is how it'll fly. We have found that homeschooling is teaching discriminatory practices at children, so therefore we are not going to legally allow homeschooling anymore. You watch, it'll happen. The gay people will see to that. Do you think the gay people just stop and get what they selfish? No. They want to bulldoze forward, and they want to silence and muzzle Christians. I kid you not. The only reason this stuff hasn't happened to the degree it has is because God is in charge. Remember the mayor in Texas, the flaming lesbian mayor who told pastors they had to send in all their sermons to her? Or go to jail? I don't know how she thought she could get that through. Amazing. Amazing. Remember, viewers, when I talked about the conscience yesterday, don't minimize that. The conscience is affected by our culture. Our conscience can be affected by the parents that brought us up. Our conscience can be infected by the prevailing peer pressure in the school that we're going to or the college. Our conscience can be affected by the church we go to, a church culture. What I've noticed about Americans, and it just really hit me the other day, is from the cars, the products, that stores can be now boiled down to Target, Walmart, Kmart, Sears, Nordman's, or Nordstrom's, and needless markup. I mean Neiman Marcus. That was on purpose, by the way. I want to say something bold, that the powers that be are not interested in us being unique individuals. They're not. When I hear an American woman say, "You don't know me," I say, "Yes, I know you. I know more about you than you know about yourself. You're following the cultural grid of thinking. Put pets on a pedestal, put people down here, support killing your children through the vehicle of abortion, open to gay stuff, gay rights. The whole green movement, let's buy your little stupid Toyota Prius, pay more money for it, and it still takes 7 years to recoup any savings." By the way, nobody's gotten back to me yet that they've made these huge savings by having one of those. Don't be fooled. Go green. Go green means you can open your wallet and watch your green go. Go green is costing us. Go green is an agenda. And don't kid yourself when you look at places like the organizations like Sierra Club. They said that all of them had the big excursions and the big SUVs. Bottom line is people want to get you to think that the environment is in such immediate danger. Corporate America has got to get you to believe that if you don't have this SUV, you're a loser. The banks freely encourage you to get in debt because they make money off the interest and penalties when you don't pay. I didn't know this for years. Every time I use my credit card, whether it's at the gas station or the doctor's office, that doctor's office gets charged a fee. This America is in a cultural grid of thinking that I can point literally across the board and say, I don't see uniqueness and individuality anymore. I see clones. And women through that same homogenized educational system are being taught, you're different. Be yourself. They are all being their self, and they all are looking like, sounding like, and the same, because they're all getting educated the same infected pus. Why do you think women are reacting the way they react when confronted with truth? Angry, put down, because you're coming against the grid of thought. I talk about cars. Have you looked at the designs of the cars and pickups today? There's no passion. I looked at the Toyota Tundra. It is an ugly looking pickup truck. And I found myself going, I asked myself, is this just my opinion? Am I being like the old man that doesn't like the new trends? No. I consider myself fairly hip on stuff, but I go, that just doesn't. I started looking at cars, the Ford Focus, I looked at the Kia stuff, and I thought, when you look at that Toyota, it just doesn't look quality. The design is cheap. The pimpy plastic bubble taillights, it all looks cheap. The smooth ergonomically metal panels, and the weird line that goes up this way, and the weird poochy fenders, and you just go, who designed this monstrosity? When I look at today's vehicles, they don't inspire passion. They don't say, look at me, I rise above the pack. Automotive industry, whether it's Ford, Chrysler, or Dodge, all they're doing is making more power, but ugly, ugly vehicles with plastic-lined interiors. And Americans are truly caught up in the car culture. I mean, caught up. We have been dumbed down. You're paying more now for a vehicle, and they will not be around in 20 years. I'm looking at my truck. There's quite a few 95 F-150s around. And it's 20 years old this year. And I look at the trucks, and that's got a lot of plastic in it. In the grill, the whole grill, the mounting brackets, all plastic. I remember my 72 Dodge, metal. My 62 Chevy, metal, metal dash, metal door panels. Oh, I loved it. You even had to tighten up the screws on those metal door panels because after a while they worked themselves loose and the truck would rattle a little bit. I could deal with that, though. There was something comforting about steel. One of those old 60s Chevy trucks hit something. Whatever ran into it, it was like hitting a brick wall. Yesterday I was on my way to work, and you go down a major boulevard and you get into the middle turn lane, the suicide lane, and I saw a snowplow in the left lane towards me, in the left closest to me. Saw all this debris, broken headlight, metal, busted glass. It's like, wow, what happened here? I turned and I saw one of our employees in her SUV had hit the blade of the plow and ripped the whole front end of her vehicle open like a can opener, and it bent that metal all the way back and just trashed everything. It hit her axle, the front axle, that she had enough coasting power to turn the corner and had to have it towed. Her vehicle, for all intents and purposes, was just shy of totaled. I get along with this woman, and I was like, oh, man. She admitted it was her own fault. The lanes are real narrow down there, and people don't watch what they're doing. And I watch these big pickups now with their stupid moose antler mirrors. The new Dodge, have you seen the retarded mirrors on them? I mean, they look like a moose. They got these things sticking all the way out. And those things are hanging out over the lane, the white or the yellow line, depending on which lane you're in. They're sticking out so far, and these idiots are flying up, exceeding the posted speed limit. And I'm looking in my bus mirror, and I'm seeing that thing that far from the sheet metal on my bus. And all I got to do is hit a bump, and they're going to tap me. And I've had to lay on the horn as they come blasting through and almost hit my front mirror. And do you think they slow down or anything? And you see these trucks with the whole mirror tore off, bracket and all, and a dimple in the door. It's like, I watch people today, and all I see is the dumbing down of people. Yesterday, I turned on a street with glare ice, school zone flashing lights, 20 miles an hour, and people go zoom past me, and I'd hit the horn. They don't even slow down. They don't heed it anymore. I heard accident after accident called in yesterday. We had freezing drizzle. Not one of our buses was involved. Americans have not only been dumbed down, but they have been enabled to believe that they're empowered and that they don't need anybody telling them what to do. And we've seen a pattern that started with allowing abortion. Now we're telling people it's okay to explore your sexuality and be gay. The worst thing you can do is start messing with the natural order of things as defined by God and start infecting children with this satanic virus. Sin. Teaching people the very thing that the Bible said would happen, calling good evil and evil good. What is calling evil good? Condemning somebody for being a conservative, condemning somebody for being one of those Christians, condemning somebody who doesn't believe in evolution, condemning somebody who says homosexuality is a sin as defined by God. It is a sin because it messes up people. Romans 1 has a lot to say about that. And all the gay people want to yell and say, well, Jesus never said it. Sorry, we believe God's word. I had a guy yesterday, I was playing cards with one of my friends at work. He sat down at the table and he was telling me about a conversation he overheard in the break room where somebody said that the Bible is very clear that a woman's not supposed to preach. And I looked him right in the eye. I said, Paul says, I do not permit a woman to teach or have authority over men. He's a devout Catholic. And he said, well, Paul was chauvinist. I said, if you believe the word of God is inspired, he was not a chauvinist. He didn't say another word. What we need to do is face the truth that rather the feminists, the gay people, the evolutionists, they're making the loudest noise, beating on the loudest drum right now. And our society's conscience is being molded. We now have young kids. Oh my gosh, he's beating his dog, mister. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. I'm calling the police. Excuse me. I am not advocating animal abuse, but the way you kids abuse me on the bus, the way you abuse each other, but you get all up about, you can say F you to teachers, F you to bus drivers, F you to cops when you're in the wrong. I had a student yesterday get on, and the Friday before he had left a mess in Tuesday he'd left a mess on the floor. Ate his breakfast, dropped it all over the floor. And so I said yesterday, I need you to sit in the front, please. Why? I said, well, if you hold on a minute, I'll tell you. Kids are trying to get on, and they like to do that. It's power stand up. I said, please sit down, and I will wait until the kids get on, and I will tell you. He said, why? At least 3 or 4 times. After everybody had gone by, I said, I'm having you here today. And I said, I don't want you putting food on the floor of my bus or in the seat like that, okay? And I said, if you just sit here today, you can go back there tomorrow. And I said, as you see, the roads are icy, so I said, just show some respect, please, and let's just have a good ride, okay? Okay. Cool. Used to be, I just wrote up that stuff. But kids today aren't taught to respect adults. They think because they got to ride the bus to school, they can act any way they want, and I have to remind them, there are rules on this bus, and if you're not comfortable with those rules, you can ride with your mommy, you can ride the RTD, or you can find alternate means of transportation to get there. But if you're going to ride this bus, expect that you will be held accountable to a system of rules that we have to go by. Another teenage girl, instead of sitting in the back yesterday, sat up in the front. I didn't see her head anymore. I called her by name. She sits up. I said, what are you doing? And she had her head on a boy's lap. And I said, mister, why? I said, with all the sexual harassment suits going on today, I said, your head in a boy's lap. I said, come on. And I said her name. I said, come on now. I said, I can't allow that. I can get in trouble for that. I said, appropriate bus behavior, please. I'm sorry to be crude, but my supervisor has told me that in the past that there has been girls giving a guy head because you can't see it in the seats unless you pull the video. And no way. No way. We live in different times, folks, and the world is turning upside down. Last night on my ride home, I actually turned on classical music, and you may laugh at me. We all like our styles, and I like a wide variety of music, but as much as I like club and dance, I'm feeling increasing conviction that most of those videos show bathing suit or scantily clad women bouncing around. That if you stop and unpack everything we do and you look at the club scene, though it's fun and all that, you stop and go, does this make you think of God? Does it make you think of being more Christ-like? And I said, no. You're lusting, there's pretty women, you're dancing, the music, a form of euphoria takes over. This whole conscience thing, that whole video that I'm going to post in this on the homosexual thing, it started making me think back into my past. Started making me think in 2008 when I compromised by being involved with Beth. And how at the time, I believed God was in it. You want to know how it works? I got my passport in under 2 weeks. Oh, God must be in this. I got this so fast. Did I was able to get online and book a flight? Oh, yeah, God was in it. Anybody can get online and book a flight. No magic there. When I first went over there to see Beth, that I regret to inform you that we had gone to dinner. A dinner that she had told me we're going to, and she didn't bother to tell me, but 2 hours before we go to the restaurant, she elbows me and goes, you're paying. I said, for all these people? I said, I'm paying for you, not all 6 of you. No, you're the American and it's your job. Fortunately, it was cheaper than it would have been in America. It was $138 to feed all of us. And as I was sitting there, the girl sitting across from me, one of her Filipina friends, was more womanly than she was and was making eyes at me and was dressed to kill. Bigger, well endowed, and I was like, oh my gosh, smiling and chatting with me. And yes, I found my mind very distracted, like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. And this girl I'm with is like a freaking teenager. And they had a band up, Chinese band doing American imitations, and they were pretty good. But they started playing songs. They had us write down requests. We handed it to the guy that would go up to the band and hand it to him. And I can't remember what song I picked for Beth. They didn't know it. They didn't have it. So they decided to replace it with, said, we thought this would be a good one. And they start singing John Lennon's Imagine. I put my head down and I looked at her and I said, this song sucks. Oh, I like this song. I said, did you listen to the words of this song? Now, here's my Americanness. Here's my theological training kicking in. I said, do you know what this song is about? Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. Imagine all the people. Woo-hoo. I said, this is all the 60s cockamania. This is as God-denying as it gets. I didn't yell or scream, but she got angry. Why do you think like that? Because I did a study on this. We were there for an hour eating, and I said, hey, can we go? Why we go? We have our guests. I said, they're free to stay. I had just gone over there to see her, so it's not like I could just say, you know what, I'm going to check out and go back to the place. I didn't know how to get there. We stayed another hour. She goes, let me just stay a little bit more. Okay, fine. And then after another hour went by, I said, hey, I got to go. I said, I'm not getting into this music. And it was violating my conscience. Some of the songs were barroom songs. And it was like, you know what? This is all about drinking and, smoking cigarettes and scantily clad women. And they weren't in there, but the songs were that. A lot of the rock and roll, American rock and roll that I didn't care for. And I said, I'm not comfortable with this stuff. Can we please go? She very angrily got upset. Because I was simple and naive, and because I was so obsessed with her beauty at the time, it didn't dawn on me that she was looking at you like you were a loser because you and her were not on the same maturity level. And I allowed her, and I allowed my involvement in Hong Kong to literally infect me, with the world. Getting on the computer, going into the chat rooms, the frog in the kettle, but exposing yourself to things that started washing my conviction power away. I drove home and listened to the beauty of classical music, and I said, you know what, this stuff is good. It doesn't conjure up lust. It doesn't conjure up this stuff. There's power in a lot of that classical music, and I look at our whole secular society today and the irritating music they listen to, and then you wonder why these women are rude and biatchy and argumentative. It's like, listen to what they're listening to. They got the TV going all the time. They listen to grungy, irritating music. You go to church and hear grungy, grating, irritating music. Garbage. I mean, not clear acoustic guitar and drums, but, just that, like Skillet and junk like that with Jesus words to it. And you go, how is this supposed to encourage an atmosphere of peace with God or with people? Or no, the world system has taken over everything. And I tried to rationally explain as we left that restaurant, Cinta J's, it was called, right down there in Wan Chai. I said, here's my view on music, Beth. At the time, I didn't realize she was not an intellectual. Why do you read stuff into that? Why do you think like that? It's good music. It's just a song. It took me a long time to realize many Filipinas have grown up with such a simple view of life that the music feels good, therefore do it. I'm sorry, but a lot of the Filipinas don't have the biblical astuteness or the biblical discernment and conviction to look at something and go, this is wrong. It's funny. In the Bible, it says that Solomon's heart was turned after other gods by all these foreign women. Now, my heart wasn't turned after another god, but I noticed that a foreign woman and my involvement with her started to turn me more back to the world. This is a woman whose post caught my attention. I want a man who's close to God. What I didn't realize is that she only met that on a superficial level. I couldn't talk to her about the flood of Noah, the rapture, the church. I tried to talk to her about mundane things like some of my interests. I was telling her the story about the Queen Elizabeth, the ship that went to Hong Kong and was set on fire, and at the Queen Mary's in Long Beach, and said how I thought that symbolized us. It just went. But I want to underscore something to my viewers, that I did not listen to God. I listened to my feelings. Hong Kong, brown skin, exotic woman with long black hair. I'm finally getting to do something. That a 14-year oppressive bad marriage. I was married to a woman for 14 years that had no passion, no uniqueness and originality. That she was cookie cutter to what I see with the women of her caliber in her work of profession, that they're all the same. They're unhappy. They shop to death. They blame everybody for this or that. and they're stuck in a rut, and they're not growing, and they're not maturing, and they just want to strike out and lash constantly. And I find myself, in spite of my sins and faults and compromise, learning to love, trying to love the unlovely, and it's hard. But last night I prayed at my bedside and said, God, I need you. I really left the path. I'm not saying that all of a sudden I just had this frosted Lucky Charms. They're magically malicious. It's not as though I'm never going to struggle. I will still have struggle. It's hard not to notice a beautiful woman. But I started talking about homosexuality, but I started talking about, in our world today, the world system and the devil behind it. He does not want us committed to godliness. He does not want us committed close to Christ. If he can do anything to distract us, and the church is no exception. Satan could care less about you and even his followers. If he can detract you from serving God, he's content. He can't take away your salvation, but he can render you ineffective. And Satan's happy that the church is sitting there shaking their little baby rattles during worship service, because he says, good, it's watered things down. I find that the church in America, whether it's Frozen Chosen Baptist Church that teaches all the right theology, but they have no love. And they're all caught up in Christmas trees and Christmas this and Christmas that. It's been a month plus now. Excuse me, I've heard nothing from it. Man, I don't expect to. The lady who got in the accident with the plow yesterday said, hey, I went to the church. Where were you? I said, I stopped going. I said, I can't go there anymore. I said, I'm done with it. But it doesn't matter what church I go to. Church is where women are authority over men. When I talk to a woman and simply try to encourage a woman, a big built woman, not heavy, but just a big built, tall frame woman, and I went to say, I really appreciate your honesty. She did give me a hug. But then she tried to tell me, tried to be an authority over me, and I caught that, and I didn't say anything because I used to submit to that. Women are not supposed to have authority over us. People are funny in their thinking too, viewers. I wanted to share with you the story about the Jehovah's Witness lady. She wants me to play cards with her every day between my routes, and I do that. Playing rummy, and I thought, that's harmless. No, I don't gamble, but it's fun. We were joking around with each other, and several people in the break room, one lady come up to me, and she goes, man, you guys were having fun over there. I said, you know what? Sometimes you just got to tune everybody out and enjoy the game. And I had invited her to lunch a couple times, and she said, no, I will not go alone with a man. And yet what's funny is she always wants to talk with me. She wants to play cards with me. And I thought, if you really want to be truthful about this, if your religion doesn't allow you to go to lunch with me in a public restaurant, why would it allow you to sit down and play cards with me every day, and then you coming up and wanting to be with me? It's just funny. I don't believe she has an interest in me. That's not where I'm going with this. And the more time I spend with her, there's no way. Because something is finally happening to me, and part of it was triggered by my own stupidity and even thinking I could go out with some woman who smokes and that it could work. And she was a nut job. There's no doubt about it. I told some of my coworkers about that date, and all of them said, wow. I said, yeah, that was crazy. I am coming more to a point now where it's like, you know what? I don't care how cute she is. If she's just not into your viewpoints and she's holding on to any viewpoint that's contrary to yours, even if she comes on to you, you just need to turn around and say, here's my YouTube channel name. If you like me after watching these videos, then we'll talk about an outing, okay? And I admitted to myself, this girl was good looking to me and I didn't want to tell her about my YouTube channel. I thought, you should have. Hold on. There's a noise out there. Just making sure it's not an intruder alert. I think ice is falling off the roof. I throw out a lot of things here, viewers, but I'm still working out my salvation. No, not trying to merit God's favor, because God's already settled that on the cross, but growth is hard because it takes us disciplining ourselves. I talked to you yesterday about the conscience, and we're going to start going more in that direction, how the culture has influenced our conscience to actually sin against God. When I talk about the things my ex-wife is doing, she's not walking in the Spirit. Most Christian women in America are not walking in the Spirit today. I started reflecting yesterday on what we allow and tolerate. That even I, and a lot of Christians, are more comfortable with the idea of living together with somebody. When just decades ago, we said, nope, 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 can't do it. I'm going to talk about and even challenge myself that I think if men are honest, we're addicted to a dating culture. Go out on a date, heavy, hot making out, possibly feeling up. Well, I didn't have sex. Our dating culture, and I'm going to say something that's going to get me in trouble. Our dating culture is not godly. Our dating culture is not godly at all. We're not supposed to treat women as mini serial romances where we can enjoy certain aspects of getting hot, heavy, making out. We won't have sex. And then you break off with that and you go with another date and another date. It's wrong. Pacific's just trying to find a woman that I really connect with and she connects with me. And I can't even find that anymore. Women are more open to serial dating. But my conscience and your conscience has been affected, those of us that are Americans. And I don't care if you're Filipino watching or an Indonesian, you've been affected by your culture too. And you got to step outside your culture no matter what country you're from and stop and go, is this right? That our plumb line, our chalk line, is the Word of God. Our compass can be our conscience. But sometimes because our conscience is corrupted by culture, by peer pressure, by church culture. And let me say something. What we're not hearing from pulpits in America is whether it's the church I went to down here or the one I went to, they all have their own little culture, and it's not necessarily from the Spirit of God. It's what I call prevailing people dynamics. When you have a group of like-minded people that behave this way, we dress in dowdy clothes. We spend too much money on our dowdy clothes. We spend 2 or 3 hours in front of the bathroom mirror as women getting ready, but our hearts are ugly. That's a culture of like-minded people. And we go in there beating our head against brick wall. They're not friendly. They're not going to reach out to you. They're socially retarded. They've been infected by a materialism culture. They've been infected by a media culture. They're narcissistic. They're inverted. This is not a growing, healthy community. Get out of it and keep going until you find one. If you take a live coal and you set it on the hearth, pull it out of a roaring fire, it will die. If you go to church after church where you feel like you're a coal on a hearth, get out. While the heat is still within you, keep finding that blaze that you can toss yourself into. But homosexual and lesbians are predatory, the militant ones. Make no mistake about it. They're inflamed with lust, and lust drives people. But it's not based in love. I know there are lesbians that would tell me, well, I live with my significant other and we're in love. Bull. Bible says love does not seek its own. Homosexual and lesbian love is as selfish as it gets. It's motivated by lust. It's rebellion to God's commands. That's not the agape definition of love. Yes, there can be acceptance within that framework, but it's an acceptance that hinges upon conditions at all levels. Pacific is going to start calling a spade even more so, because we need to challenge the lies, the prevailing lies that are being pushed upon us all around us in our American culture and Western cultures. A woman in a lesbian relationship with another woman, that is not love. Don't buy that. It is lust. It is rebellion to God's commands. It is not the biblical definition of love. Well, she treats me better than all the men ever. Of course she does. She's got a motive to groom you into being just like her. If you really believe it's love, tell her, well, I don't want to be a lesbian, but I'd love to be your friend, but you can't touch me here, and you can't kiss me, and you can't do anything. We'll see how long that love lasts, okay? Thank you very much. And you choose not to move in with her. Let's see how long that love lasts. I think if all of us guys are honest, our love has been fickle too towards women. But if a gay man finally comes to Jesus Christ and says, you know what, I can't do this anymore, but I'd like to be your friend, but I'm moving out, we're not doing the sexual nookie anymore, let's see if that other gay person has love for that person. I guarantee you, it'll go away. It's funny, when you throw Jesus into any situation, you'll find out whether love exists or not. When you throw Jesus into your rock music and start analyzing the lyrics, the Bible says, teach what is in accord with sound doctrine. And that goes for analyzing what you listen to and what you watch and unpacking it and saying, well, come on, Pacific, I just want to go home and veg out. That was my wife's comment. I just want to veg out and turn on the TV. I don't want to be so intense. I don't want to think about this stuff. I understand the need to recreate, but what is our recreating consisting of? The woman I was married to for 14 years was not theologically grounded ever. When I met her, I had to teach her a lot. As far as I can tell, I don't know what she believes anymore. It's very hard to tell. Being gone away from her for so many years and coming back, I thought, man, she has not grown at all. In fact, she's regressed. And most Christian women are regressing. Most Christian women I know are okay with living with a guy and screwing around sexually. I've been okay with it. But it's wrong. It's sin. We're allowing our consciences to be seared by the culture around us. And if we're going to follow the Pinocchio theology of let your conscience be your guide, we're just going to get into trouble. Not good. Okay, everybody. I need my viewers to pray for me, because it was nice to turn off the computer, go in my room and pray until I got so tired and I just went to bed. Kind of a nice way to end the day. End it with God. And Pacific has to constantly analyze, is your involvement with this person or that person, even people I chat with and stuff, even online, are they helping me to become a better person? Are they helping me to get closer to the glory of God? And it's not that I want to be so holy and self-righteous that, I'm not going to hang around with non-Christians. Excuse me, that's not what we want to do. But sometimes we have to separate ourselves from other people that tend to just It isn't going anywhere. It's just, mind-numbing caca, to be involved. And but yes, I've compromised. I compromised my conscience, and Beth was very, very good at what she did. She made me feel bad for having my views on the rock music. And because I allowed her to beat me up, so to speak, I started listening to music that I had been delivered from. It was her that convinced me to go to videoke. She might as well have just done her bra strap right there in the public streets. Because when I found all these pretty women that were nicer to me than she was, our marriage was over. Because then I started to go, wait a minute, this is a Christian woman. Why is she so nasty to me? Why did we get told she wanted me to go to videoke and then kept telling me to dance with her friend and wouldn't even dance with me? And then another woman wants to dance with me and she pushes, go ahead. No, I could tell by the woman looking at me, she had lust in her eyes. Pacific would have never even been in there or found out about these places if it wasn't for her. Pacific wouldn't have even been listening to a lot of this music that I started listening to if it wasn't for her. Now, I'm not blaming her for my sins, but by not listening to God, when I first canceled the flight to Hong Kong to meet her, and then she manipulated, why did you cancel, and wanted me to come out. I was a foolish man. And I had to pay a $600 upcharge because then the rates had gone up. I wasted so much money chasing that girl. I stopped and thought, now, you could have bought yourself a nice, solid wood frame house somewhere in America for the money you had in the bank then. And I think God would have honored that more than all your running around in Asia, sowing oats and compromising and watering down everything and not being the cutting edge person that you've been known to be. And the reason my marriage with the woman of 14 years failed is not because I was perfect, but because I had a set of convictions that she just didn't agree with. I had a belief about how to raise a son. I had a belief that she needed to submit, and I didn't yell that at her. I never said, you need to submit. I never did that. She didn't submit. She did what she wanted to do and had free reign to do what she wanted to do. She wanted us to move here. We went there, and the one time that I finally put my foot down and said, no, we're taking a house. We're out of here. But if you don't want the house, we got enough money in the inheritance. We can go to Maine. We can go anywhere. She chose to take the house. And then she later blamed it on me. When men don't take leadership, and then when they finally do, you are going to have a problem. You need to take leadership from the first date. Don't play that smooth operator game and win her over and act like, oh yeah, I believe in being a team. Don't do that. You go on a date and you treat her like a lady, but when it's appropriate, just say, I believe in being the head of my house. And if she's got a problem with it right there, let her go. I don't care how hot she is. Let her go. Or if she's willing to be mature and work through it, okay. I have no regrets for divorcing her. But going to Hong Kong, yes, my mind was open, but at what cost? I learned a lot about the other side of the world, which God can turn things around for good, which has benefited you. I never would have had a YouTube channel if I hadn't gone over there. I will tell you that right now. None of you would know me. Because me getting over there said, ooh, I want to make videos of myself over here. And then I started realizing, man, I can talk about my issues. And if I'm a whack job and everything, said that they're going to show up and tell me. God can turn anything around for good, but it was not pleasing to God for me to make love to all those women. It was not pleasing to God for me to be in videoke almost every day. It wasn't pleasing to God to go chase a woman that God had no part in. Just because you can book a flight and get your passport doesn't mean that God was in it. You know, there's stupid people out there that believe because they broke into a store and stole everything and got away with it that, you know, must have been okay. We can make choices, and our choices often are not God's way. I prayed for God's protection on me from my ex-wife. I prayed for God to keep his hand on my life and prayed that God would continue to work in me. And I said, oh, God, it's hard because I do struggle with my own rebellious self. But I clearly see where I compromised. I should have put my foot down and kept it down on that first date over there with her for 2 weeks. I should have said, no, you know what? No. You're not a mature Christian woman. You've got issues. We're not equally yoked here. I have a different understanding theologically of things, and you've never been grounded. It's not my job to go into a dating relationship and try to disciple the date. That if I really want to be honest, I need to have a woman who has my convictions. But more and more I'm starting to realize I don't think I'm going to find that. More and more I'm starting to realize, you know, you better just get yourself used to the idea that you're going out as a single man and find a purpose and find what God wants you to do. And I'm not always sure what that is, viewers. All I do is get up one day at a time, and I said, you know, God, I just wish you'd get my ex off my back, that you would help her to mature and grow and have a good relationship with you and see the truth about herself. And I don't see that happening, and why. We're going to talk about this more and more, not her, because I'm done with that, beating that dead horse. What we're going to talk about is how the culture has infected our minds so much that rock music has been the Trojan horse that came into the door. Now Christians are addicted to it just like everybody else. So much so that now we have our Christian version of it, and it sucks. Our thinking has been turned around because we allowed it to be done so by our media, our culture, our sports, our materialism. What finally made me step back is going overseas and then coming back and going, what happened to the women over here? I mean, I know Beth was no sweetheart, but I met a lot of nice, pretty women that wanted me. And I've had to block a whole bunch of people. My Chinese are rude in Hong Kong. Several people going back and forth, just being nasty and vicious in their attitude against Filipina and Indonesian maids. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to listen to this. At a specific stance, if you're working an honest job, that's honorable. So what if you're a maid or a domestic helper? That's not less than the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Let me make that clear. That domestic helper services are needed just as much as Mr. Self-Importance in the suit and tie, squeezing every nickel out of somebody and oppressing America with more boring products that you must have. I look at the auto industry, and they are an epic fail. The Toyota Tundra is one of the ugliest looking trucks on the market, right up there with GMC's Transformer pickups. Disgusting. I'm like, who's on the design boards? And people say, well, it's new people that have no passion. I'm sorry, when you look at the old cars, man, they said something. Today, you can't even tell the darn things apart. Whether you buy a plastic Beamer or a plastic Audi or a plastic Mercedes, they're all the same. Junk, high price, and they just don't look quality. And why do I point to that? Because the materialistic culture is reflective of a shallow mental culture. That our public education is not cutting edge anymore. In the 50s, we used to excel in math and sciences. We're not. Wow. I see the light, man. It's in my eye. As we get older, hopefully we will really start to dig deeper in our thinking, and there's nothing wrong with that. That we should start getting dissatisfied with these earthly things and start prioritizing more and more and say, you know what? Chasing girls, chasing cars, chasing American dream, or whatever dream you have on the other side of the world, that a lot of that stuff, it's so temporal that one day our life will be over, and I'm sorry, we're not going to be sitting around in heaven going, yeah, I got laid with a hot chick in China. You know what? Those conversations won't even exist. We're not going to be sitting in heaven talking about our 440 V8 and our Dodge Charger 1970 model. Nobody cares. And if you're in hell, you won't be talking about anything. You'll be there all by yourself, separated from all your party buddies, and tormented, and away from the presence of God. We don't stop and think about that, but the most tragic thing of anything is when we stop and reflect of just the idea of being separated away from the presence of God for all eternity. Some people love that. Some people, I don't care. Well, you're going to care. It's that same God who gives blessings and rain and food and gives eternal life. And when you're sitting there suffering in hell, you ain't going to think that's so fun anymore. I love it when all these rock and roll people doing their drugs and partying. Oh, yeah, hell will be great. I'll be there with all my friends. You are an ignorant person. You have no idea what hell is like. Weeping and gnashing of teeth where the worm dieth not. They're not going to be in there partying down. And we're going to talk more and more about how the culture has infected even the everything around us, so much so that people actually have a wrong view of hell. For people that actually think, groups like AC/DC and Black Sabbath, they're all going to be in there jamming on guitars. They won't have a guitar, they won't have a mic, and they won't have an amp, and they won't have a beer. No. We don't need to even say this. If we're not careful, the culture will squeeze us into its mold. No, we've gone beyond that. We've let the culture squeeze us into its mold. The homosexual community and the lesbian community is just lying to us. They're not telling the truth. And Pacific does not endorse harassment against them. Leave them alone. But mind you this. Be very careful if you're going to befriend them. You better make sure that you don't have a predisposition towards that, and you better not let them continue to water you down. You just say, you know what? I like you as a friend, but I'm not into this. And honestly, if we really want to get technical, the Bible's very clear that we need to show the love of Christ. But if we're going to be hanging out and having some sort of camaraderie among people in those lifestyles, we better check ourselves and say, should we be doing this? And the answer is no. It's not that we want to have a holy huddle because we need to reach the lost, but I think we need to be more willing to go after people where we have a little greater influence on them for Christ. But if you're around people that are influencing you more against God, get away from them. You don't have to be rude. Just say, you know what? At this stage in my life, I'm trying to work through some things, and I'm just not comfortable hanging with you, man. That's all you got to do. And if they get all bent, let them get all bent, twisted up by themselves, and pray for them. It is better to be alone than to be friends with a bunch of fools and companions of fools that are just going to water down your view. And, you start being afraid, well, I don't want to offend them. If they're really your friend, you should be able to offend them. This whole dating thing is a joke. The culture's become so self-centered on a female point of view, and men too, but women seem to dominate the self-centered department. And them wanting a perfect man, and you got to impress them. Nowhere in the Bible does it say we're supposed to impress God when we come to Him? And when we pray, there's nothing about impressing Him. That's why some people get caught up in the whole dressing, and I believe in modest dressing. But the whole idea that you must wear a suit and tie to church, I don't buy that. I see a lot of people doing that, and those suits and tie people are probably as far from God, even as Christians, as anybody else. It's not the external packaging that's a sign of your intimacy with God at all. In fact, the older I get, the people with the suits and ties are screwing us over faster than the people in jeans and a t-shirt. I see a lot of ministers wearing suits and ties, and they don't even have a right grasp on the Word of God. I see a lot of ministers in suits and ties that don't have 1 ounce of love or care for me or other Christians, and don't care. And if they're so led by the Spirit, why are they not doing anything to show that? Viewers, I got to go get ready. But know this. The agendas of the world, the agendas of those that are in rebellion to God, they're not telling us the truth. Some things I've come full circle on because I went out and tried them, but I want to say something to my viewers. Don't go out and get something out of your system. It could cost you your life. It could cost you consequences you never dreamed of. Abstain. God in His mercy allowed me to experiment and try some things, but He did not smile at it and go, oh, good boy. Fortunately, I went through my own journey and said, you know what, this stuff is wrong. I don't want it. Gross. But now I see more clearly. Homosexuals don't care about you. They've got a goal, and it's to play with your parts. They only care about you as long as you can fulfill their lust. And I'm going to be honest with you. The same is true of the lesbian women. If you, young lady, are having lesbian tendencies and some woman's really grooming you, look her right in the eye and say, I don't want to live with you and I don't want to do this stuff. See if she still loves you. She'll still keep trying to manipulate, but I guarantee you, if you really want to solve a problem real quick and find out where something is at, bring Jesus Christ into the middle of it. The band that you're listening to, start asking yourself, would that band be comfortable with Jesus Christ coming in and saying, you know, your lyrical content isn't very good? I remember a lady I knew years ago wrote the band Journey, saying, I want to know what your songs mean because you have the beetle, the Egyptian scarab on a lot of your album covers. I personally read the letter that was sent from the secretary who handles the fan mail, and it was nasty. You know, you Christians, why do you got to worry about what we're singing about, blah, blah, blah. It was hateful. And you know what? That's all you need to know. The band is not interested in God. They're not interested in promoting God, and yet that band has made themselves a God. And the thing is, we don't like to talk about it. But we can listen to our sappy, drippy songs faithfully. I mean, come on, man. Deep. Really deep. Smell of wine and cheap perfume. I mean, if we stop and step outside of ourselves, and I've liked a lot of Journey stuff, and I've liked a lot of music, these people are in rebellion to God. Why are we adoring them? We've allowed these people to be the Pied Piper in our culture, and it's turning this whole culture in a direction that will culminate in the Battle of Armageddon one day, worldwide. The whole world right now is being mustered as to whose side are you on. The battle line is drawn, and Joshua still shouts out, choose you this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord. And I'm going to say something even to my viewers. That's not popular today. The world in all its enticement. Wow, go get in debt for that new piece of crap car. Wow, inspiring, passionate. Go make yourself a slave to that. And wait till the car repairs come in after the warranty's over, and you'll go, oh my gosh, I'm $400 a month in this toilet bowl. I tell my viewers, trust God, and if he gives you a nice old beater that works, drive it until the wheels fall off. It's his provision. Stop wasting your money and stop getting in debt on this crap. Get into God, get into God, get into God, get into God. We all need to. I need to. And if we listened to God, I never would have gone to Hong Kong. At least not with that motive. But it is not God's will for a man to spend so much money to go overseas to petition somebody to come here when we have women right here. But when we have women that are so out of the will of God, we've got a problem. So we come back, the full circle is closing, and we have to say, if we trust in God, then we need to say and submit, and I need to submit that if God wants me to have a wife, let him do it and forget about it. Ouch. Searching, looking over date sites, the round and round with the ding-dong and a roar and all the stupid stuff we go through. But the truth is, I don't always believe. I thought it was up to me to find. Whenever we do something in our own strength, the end result is trouble. When we submit to God, the end result is peace. No strife. The end result is his blessing. And what he builds, things will work. Oh, we got to do our part, but things will work. When he's not the author of it, when he's not the builder of it, you might as well take your 4x4 truck, drive into the La Brea tar pits, put that sucker in 4, and put the pedal to the floor and see how far you get. And you just keep going deeper and deeper down into the ooze. You're not getting out. But that's man today. That's feminism. That's the gay community. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to fight for my... You keep fighting. You're spinning your wheels because one day God is going to shut you down. People are enslaved, and they don't like to hear that. Feminists are in chains to the devil. The gays, the militant gay community is in chains to the devil and their own fleshly lusts. Us guys that chase girls and idolize them are enslaved. People in the gambling, drinking, smoking pot, doing drugs are enslaved. People who are so addicted to video games that that's all they spend most of their free time doing are enslaved. People on Facebook, YouTube, any of this stuff, inordinately are enslaved. People who obsess over their jobs and their houses and their SUVs are in chains to materialism and their kingdom. The world is yet to see in American culture a man or a woman enslaved to Jesus Christ and throwing off the shackles of all that tempts and bedevils us on a daily, minute-by-minute basis. You think I don't wrestle with it when I see a nice F-150 four-door diesel that's in perfect shape and I look at my rusting, rotting truck and go, man. And I say, God, thank you that my truck started today and it works. Am I speaking truth, viewers? Can I have an amen? If so, post it in the comments with an exclamation point to let me know you're enthusiastic about this. You guys say you like my Christian videos better. Step up to the plate and prove it. I don't want everything to be about women bashing. That seems to be the biggest hits. Can we move away from that? Can we start blasting the culture that we've become ensnared with? Just saying. Is anybody with me on this? Are all of us willing to go on a journey to get deeper and try? Not realizing we'll fall off the horse many times, but can we try to move in a direction? Can my own viewers interact with each other and care? There are people that come in on this channel, and I'm not going to mention their names. I don't know where they stand spiritually, but can we appropriately reach out to them in love? They may have questions. Can we not be rude? Can we try to answer them? Can we have dialogue? Can we somehow let people know that in spite of my radical views to many people out there, can they see something on this channel that doesn't exist on others? Man, his fans, and they all really seem to care about each other. That will attract more people than 55,000 words out of my mouth. We're living in a broken, busted world, and I am not afraid to speak out about what we're speaking out against. But at the same time, we have people coming on this channel that may not be dyed-in-the-wool Christians. But God's moving on their heart, and they're searching. Let's not push them away by being rude and insensitive. They may offer up something we don't agree with. Let's be gracious in how we deal with them. Let's try to start showing that we really care and love. And love starts with loving God so that we can rightly love others. And I've got a long way to go with that. Happy Thursday, everybody. One day closer to Friday. This is Pacific, signing off. Bye-bye.